The city lights of Charleston flickered against the polished glass doors of the Solstice Grand. My fingers tightened around the hotel keycard, still warm from my palm. It was embossed with the golden emblem I had designed a decade ago, a rising sun cradled by ocean waves. And yet, at that very entrance, my sister Laurel stood like a velvet rope I hadn't paid enough to cross. "Cassier," she said, dragging out my name like it left a bitter taste. Her body angled sideways, an almost imperceptible block between me and the revolving doors. "I didn't think you'd actually show up. Thought you'd be busy folding napkins or whatever it is you do now." Before I could respond, my mother appeared at Laurel's shoulder, draped in icy blue silk and judgment. Her eyes skimmed over me the way one scans for a flaw in a mirror. Quiet, surgical, practiced. They were trying to keep me out of the building I owned. The question wasn't whether I would reveal the truth. The question was when, and how much it would cost them. Laurel adjusted the strap of her clutch, a patent leather imitation of a bag I'd seen in Milan last spring. The stitching was slightly off, the zipper crooked, but she wore it like a badge of status. "Dad's birthday isn't a walk-in kind of event," she added, her tone sharp. "There's a dress code, a guest list, and an expectation of discretion." My mother, Diane, stepped forward with that practiced smile that never quite reached her eyes. "We really hoped you'd understand," she said softly. "This isn't the time for tension or surprises. It's Martin's night." I smiled back. "I brought a gift." Laurel gave a theatrical sigh, rolling her eyes toward the sky. "A scented candle? A gift card to Olive Garden?" I reached into my clutch and tapped the envelope inside without pulling it out. "Something more permanent." Mom narrowed her eyes, then her voice shifted, becoming almost gentle. "Look, sweetheart, it's not about the gift. It's about presentation. Status. We've worked hard to make sure tonight reflects well on the family. Everyone important will be here. The Penbrooks, the Crestwells, Mr. Durant from First National. You understand?" Yes, I understood. I understood perfectly. They'd spent years shaping their version of family into something polished, palatable, and exclusive. My departure from the family accounting firm had made me the stain on that carefully starched white collar, and now they feared I'd show up and ruin their illusion of unity and wealth. "I'm not here to cause a scene," I said softly. "But your presence would be a scene," Laurel snapped. "What do you expect us to do? Introduce you as the sister who left to wait tables?" I nearly laughed. If only they knew. Instead, I said nothing. I watched the marble floors inside sparkle under chandeliers I'd chosen. I watched a bellhop escort guests to elevators I'd approved. I listened to a jazz trio tuning their instruments in the atrium, a musical partnership I'd negotiated. After one too many dull lobby playlists, everything they were trying to keep me from was already mine. Diane reached for my wrist gently. "Please, Cassier, don't embarrass yourself." She meant don't embarrass them. The keycard in my hand pulsed like a second heartbeat. I could end this entire charade in one sentence, but I didn't. Not yet. Sometimes silence sharpens truth better than any words. "I understand," I said finally. They both relaxed, misreading me again, and I stepped back, giving them what they thought was victory, even as I stared up at the hotel's name in shining brass letters, Solstice Grand, the name they'd erased me from, the building they thought I had no place in, the empire they didn't know I'd built. From the sidewalk, I watched a valet open the door for a man I recognized, Judge Albright, whose wife had just renewed their resort membership last week. I tucked the keycard into my clutch and walked calmly to the corner, letting the wind carry the scent of gardenia and wood smoke from the courtyard fires. I wouldn't force my way in. I'd just wait for them to realize they'd slammed a door shut on its owner. 10 years ago, I stood in the conference room of Vaughn and Associates, holding a printed resignation letter and shaking like a child about to speak out of turn. The office still smelled like dry ink and burned coffee. Laurel sat in the corner, tapping on her tablet like I didn't exist. My father stood at the head of the polished oak table, arms folded across his chest, waiting for me to back down. "I'm leaving," I said, voice small but steady. "I've been accepted into the hospitality management program at Penn." He blinked once. You mean to wait tables? I mean to run hotels, I replied. Own them. His laughter was sharp, cruel. Casier, this family built something solid, something respectable, and you want to go fold towels and ask strangers if they want extra pillows? I remember Laurel's snicker, the way she didn't even look up from her tablet. Don't forget she gets to plan wedding brunches and clean up champagne vomit. Sounds glamorous. My father's expression turned hard, final. If you walk out of here, you walk out for good. There won't be a job waiting when it falls apart. There won't be bailouts. I'm not asking for one, I said. You're not thinking clearly, he shot back. You're acting like some glorified waitress with a savior complex. I held his gaze. Then let me save myself. That was the last time I stepped into that office. They removed my photo from the company website by the end of the week. My name vanished from the family newsletter by that Christmas. In place of celebration, I got silence. In place of support, I got absence. And in that absence, I built something they couldn't see. I started small, entry level in a boutique hotel in Philadelphia, working the front desk, the linens, the breakfast bar. I learned the rhythms of hospitality not from textbooks, but from double, shifts and mop buckets. While they played dress-up in financial prestige, I was learning how to manage people, read margins, negotiate vendor contracts, and spot opportunity where others saw risk. The first hotel I bought was on the verge of bankruptcy. No one saw value in it, but I did. I stripped the wallpaper myself, slept in one of the guest rooms while the renovations happened around me, reopened it 8 months later under the name Solstice Inn. Within a year, it was turning a profit. Within 3, it was a brand. Now, it's an empire, and still they think I manage a brunch cafe. A car horn jolted me back to the present. A stretch limousine pulled up in front of the Solstice Grand. Out stepped Laurel, smirking, waving to someone inside like a pageant queen, probably soaking in the attention she thought belonged to her. I stayed in the shadows. Let her soak it in. Soon, she'd find out whose spotlight she was standing in. Laurel stepped back outside, just as the valet closed the limousine door. She spotted me immediately, narrowed her eyes, and tossed her freshly curled hair over one shoulder like she was preparing for a photo shoot. "Still here?" she said, her voice tight with disbelief. "I thought you got the message." I offered a small smile. "I didn't realize you were the gatekeeper." "I'm family," she snapped. "You're the one who walked away, remember? You don't just get to show up and pretend everything's fine." "I'm not pretending anything." She stepped closer, voice dropping to a hiss. "Do you have any idea how pathetic this looks? Standing out here like you're waiting for scraps. You can't afford to breathe the same air as the people inside." I didn't flinch, didn't argue. I just let her words hang in the cool night air, bitter and hollow. My mother appeared again, this time more agitated. "Cassier, this is becoming embarrassing for everyone. Please, just go home. We'll talk another time." "Another time when?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "When it's appropriate." "When I fit your narrative," I said. Laurel laughed, sharp and cruel. "You want to come in so badly? Fine. Let's call the valet and see if they'll escort you out themselves." She raised her hand, about to snap her fingers at the nearest staff member. But before she could, the valet turned. His eyes widened, not in confusion, in recognition. "Miss Vaughn?" he said, his voice laced with surprise and respect. Laurel froze. The glass doors opened and a man in a crisp gray suit stepped out. "Donovan, my general manager." His expression was professional, warm, and entirely directed at me. "Welcome back, Miss Vaughn," he said smoothly. "Everything's ready for your father's event." Laurel's face drained of color. My mother took a step back, her heel catching slightly on the edge of the curb. Donovan didn't seem to notice their shock, or perhaps he did and simply didn't care. "The property acquisitions were finalized this morning," he continued, his tone calm and businesslike. "The contracts are in your office. Mr. Whitmore's team confirmed the Charleston properties, and the lease agreement for the office building on Broad Street is ready for your signature." Broad Street, the same building where Vaughn and Associates had their executive offices, the same building my family had leased for the last 15 years. Laurel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at Donovan, then at me, then back at Donovan as if trying to piece together a puzzle that didn't make sense. My mother's voice came out thin, strained. "I'm sorry. There must be some mistake." Donovan smiled politely. "No mistake, Mrs. Vaughn. Your daughter owns the Solstice Grand, along with the entire Solstice portfolio. 12 properties across the eastern seaboard. We're very proud to work for her." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Laurel's carefully constructed confidence crumbled in real time. Her lips parted, her eyes darted, and for the first time in years, she had absolutely nothing to say. I turned to Donovan. "Thank you. I'll be up shortly." He nodded and disappeared back inside, leaving the three of us standing under the soft glow of the hotel's entrance lights. Laurel finally found her voice, though it came out weak, disbelieving. "You own this?" "Yes." "The whole hotel?" "And 11 others." Her face twisted, caught between rage and humiliation. "You've been lying to us." "I've been living my life," I said evenly. "You assumed the rest." My mother gripped her pearl necklace like it was a lifeline. "Cassier, if we had known—" "You would have what?" I interrupted gently. "Respected me? Included me? Loved me?" She didn't answer. I looked at Laurel, whose hands were trembling now, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. "You can't afford to breathe the same air." I repeated her words back to her softly. "Funny, considering I own the building." Laurel's jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened, but whether from tears or fury, I couldn't tell. "Shall we?" I said, gesturing toward the entrance. "I hear the view from the top floor is worth seeing." I stepped forward, past their silence, past their shock, and into the lobby I had built. The marble under my heels was smooth, cool, familiar. My staff greeted me with nods, soft smiles, and a touch of awe. Rachel at the front desk spoke gently into her earpiece. "She's here. Elevators are ready." I walked to the center of the atrium, the chandelier above catching firelight from the lobby sconces. My family lingered behind me, unmoving, frozen in disbelief. But the doors were already open, and this time I wasn't waiting for permission to walk through them. The elevator door slid open with a soft chime, revealing the Solstice Grand's private lounge. The room fell silent the moment I stepped inside. Dozens of carefully curated guests turned their heads in unison. Waitstaff froze mid-pour. The soft jazz stuttered to a halt, as if even the music had recognized the shift in power. My father stood near the head table, drink in hand, mouth slightly ajar. He didn't move. My mother gripped her pearl necklace tighter, her eyes scanning me from head to toe as if searching for an explanation she could live with. I kept walking. "Cassier," Martin Vaughn said at last, his voice stunned. "What are you doing here?" "I believe this is your birthday," I replied gently. "I came to offer my gift." Mr. Kwan from Crest Point Bank stepped forward, interrupting. "Miss Vaughn, I had no idea you were connected to the Vaughn family. We've been trying to reach your office for weeks regarding our expansion loan." Before I could respond, Judge Albright appeared beside him. "Cassier Vaughn," he said with a chuckle. "Now everything makes sense. The woman behind those property acquisitions, I should have known it was someone with Charleston roots." The Blackwells were next. "Your team rejected our membership application," Mrs. Blackwell murmured, suddenly deferential. "We'd love a chance to reapply directly." I glanced back toward the elevator. Diane stood at the threshold, already plastering on a smile, her voice lifting for the guests nearby. "We've always been proud of our daughter. Of course we supported her journey. It's just, well, she's always been independent." Laurel was behind her, half shielded by the door, staring at the marble floor like it had betrayed her. I turned back to the guests. "Please enjoy the evening. Everything has been arranged. My staff is here to ensure you're comfortable." "Cassier," my father said again, quieter this time. "I didn't know." "No," I replied. "You didn't." He looked smaller now, not just surprised, but fragile. The same man who once told me no daughter of his would serve tables, now surrounded by the very people who once dismissed me, each suddenly eager to attach their name to mine. I made my way toward the head table and gently placed the envelope beside his plate. He didn't reach for it. Behind me, I heard my mother trying to explain me to the Blackwells, as if I were a rediscovered heirloom. I let her, but I took my seat at the head of the table, not because they finally invited me, but because I had always belonged there. An hour later, I found him alone on the terrace, hands resting on the stone railing, his eyes fixed on the Charleston skyline like it might offer answers he couldn't find in the room behind us. He didn't turn when I stepped beside him, just sighed. "You've built quite a kingdom." I nodded. "Yes, I was wrong about you." His voice cracked slightly. So terribly wrong. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The night air was soft, salt-tinged. Far below, the city pulsed with life. Restaurants, streetcars, laughter echoing off brick. "I never needed you to believe in me," I said. "I just wanted you to see me." He lowered his head. "I didn't know how." "No," I said, "you didn't try." He turned toward me slowly, searching my face. "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked out past the rooftops. The dome of the old courthouse glowed gold against the indigo sky. A city that had once made me feel small now looked like something I could hold in my hands. "You didn't fail me by doubting me," I said. "You failed me by measuring love with status. You loved us based on who followed your path. You respected only what fit your image." He didn't argue, didn't flinch. "I didn't come here tonight for closure," I added, "or for approval. I came because I stopped needing either." His eyes shone with something like grief, not for what he'd done, but for the version of me he'd never cared to know. I stepped back toward the glass doors. "You can tell people your daughter owns the Solstice Grand now. That seems like something you'd enjoy saying at dinners." "Caissière," he started, but I'd already turned away. The door closed gently behind me. I slipped away before the final toast. Let them clink glasses and pretend they knew me. Upstairs in my private office overlooking the bay, I let the quiet settle. The skyline shimmered, a city I'd once been told I'd never belong to. Now it was mine in more ways than they'd ever know. My desk held a short stack of business cards, ones slipped to me by guests who once ignored me. Suddenly they wanted meetings, partnerships, introductions. Laurel's fiancé had disappeared mid-reception. No explanation. Just vanished when the truth settled in. Diane retreated behind heiress diplomacy, apologizing for my independent streak with the same charm she used to dismiss me. I opened my checkbook, wrote a quiet donation to a women's startup fund under a pseudonym. The memo line read, "For the girl they once called a waitress." Then I leaned back in the leather chair I'd chosen a lifetime ago. The one no one gave me, the one I built. Below, the last of the party lights flickered off. The story they told about me was over. Now I would write my own. The runway shimmered in the early light as I stepped onto the jet. No entourage, no camera flashes, just the hush of morning and the weightlessness that comes from leaving something behind. My phone buzzed once. My father, a short message. "Let's talk again soon." I read it, then let it disappear. Some things don't need a response. Instead, I opened a new message to Donovan. "Let's move forward with the new resort project. One without gates, no velvet ropes, no dress codes, just belonging." He replied within seconds, already drafting the site plans. "We'll send options by end of day." I smiled. Outside the window, the city faded beneath the clouds. They had written me out of the family story a long time ago. All I did was stop asking for a paragraph. I became the publisher. And now, no more waiting for applause that would never come. No more shrinking to fit their narrative. They tried to lock me out. I became the architect of every room they'll never own. Have you ever been underestimated by people who should? Have believed in you? Drop your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about turning rejection into power.
That's all it was supposed to be. A normal Thursday night. I made spaghetti, garlic bread. My usual because I was the one who cooked most nights. My mom called it rehearsal for real life. As if I wasn't already living in it. My brother had just come home from college, again after dropping another class. My parents acted like it was no big deal. It's all part of the journey, my dad said. But when I mentioned that I had a meeting the next day with a client who might double my freelancing income, my mom rolled her eyes. Must be nice to sit at home on your computer all day. I paused. It's not easy, but I'm doing okay. I've been helping with. You're not helping, she snapped. You're surviving under our roof. That's when I looked at my dad, hoping, just once, he'd correct her. He didn't. He just kept cutting his food. I should have stopped there. But something in me cracked. Actually, I've been paying more than half the mortgage since last year. The room went silent. Even my brother looked up from his phone. Mom scoffed. What are you talking about? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a printout of my auto-pay confirmation, the one I'd been using every month without fail. Quietly. Consistently. This. It comes out on the 4th. Every month. $1,140. From my account, my dad finally looked up. Not with pride. With rage. And what? You want a trophy? You think this house is yours now? No, I said quietly. I just wanted a little respect. That's when Mom stood up. You want respect? You earn it by knowing your place. This is our home. Our rules. You don't like it? She threw her napkin down. Get out. And don't come back. Just like that. No hesitation. No hesitation. I turned to my dad. He didn't even look at me. You heard her. The silence in my throat was louder than any scream. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, stood up from the table, and walked down to my room. I packed one bag. Laptop. Charger. A few clothes. The small envelope of emergency cash I'd been saving, just in case. Turns out just in case was now. I didn't slam any doors. Didn't yell. Didn't beg. Didn't leave a note. I left silently. Because when someone tells you you're not welcome, believe them. My name is Tessa. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because they thought they were cutting me off. But what they really did was cut themselves off from the one person keeping their roof above their heads. And 3 months from that night, they'd remember exactly what it cost them. They liked to say I lived under their roof, like I was some freeloader on their generosity. But here's the truth. That roof wasn't theirs. Not anymore. It had been refinanced twice. The second time was after my dad lost his job during the pandemic and never fully bounced back. My mom picked up part-time work at a local office, but it barely covered groceries, and my younger brother's tuition was bleeding them dry. They wouldn't admit any of it. Pride came before every unpaid bill. That's where I came in. I had been working as a freelance web designer for about a year and a half. It wasn't flashy, I didn't post about it, didn't brag. I just worked, built Shopify stores, cleaned up code, rebranded small businesses on Instagram. I stacked savings slowly, and when I found out the house was slipping toward default, I stepped in. Quietly. One night, I overheard my parents arguing about being a month behind again. So I called the mortgage company the next morning, gave them the account number from an old bill I found on the printer, and asked what I could do. They told me the minimum to stay current. I paid it. $1,140. Then I set it to repeat. Every month. On the 4th. No one knew. Because I didn't do it to be praised. I did it because the idea of my family losing the house made me sick. Because even if they didn't say it, I knew no one else could or would help. I even picked up extra clients to make sure I could keep covering it, skipping sleep, saying no to vacations, grinding through edits at 3 a.m. But I was still just the girl in the basement. My mom used to call it letting me stay rent-free, a joke she liked to repeat at family gatherings. No one ever asked what I paid for. No one cared that I handled utilities most months, that I bought my brother's textbooks once, that I kept the Wi-Fi running. They just called me sensitive when I asked for a little space, dramatic when I said I felt invisible, ungrateful when I wanted to move out. And then they told me to get out, like I was taking up space in a life I had helped fund. And what hit me hardest that night wasn't the cruelty, it was the clarity. I had given everything and meant nothing. That's when I shut off the autopay. Same night I left. Logged in, canceled the recurring payment, and marked the property as no longer my residence in the portal. 3 clicks. That's all it took to return the full weight of that roof to their shoulders. They didn't notice, of course. Not yet. Because people who are used to taking without asking never notice when the hand stops giving until it's gone. And when they finally do, they don't ask why. They ask, how dare you? But me? I didn't answer. I just waited. Because bills don't lie. And neither do empty mailboxes. I left without a fight. Without a bag full of accusations. Without a door slammed behind me. And they didn't even ask where I went. No, are you okay? No, do you have somewhere to stay? No, let's talk when we've all calmed down. Just silence. And that told me everything I needed to know. I moved in with my friend Jules, the only person who'd ever seen how thin I was stretched. She let me stay in her spare room rent-free at first, even though I offered. She said, "You've been taking care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you for once." I almost cried. Not because it was kind, but because it felt unfamiliar. For the first time, I had a space where I wasn't walking on eggshells, where no one barked orders, where I wasn't the background character in someone else's perfect family narrative. I set up my desk near the window, lit a $4 candle I couldn't afford before, and worked late into the nights without someone knocking on the door asking when dinner would be ready. The first week after I left, not a single text. Then the second week. Then the third. I thought maybe my brother would reach out. He didn't. Instead, I saw him post a video on Instagram, smiling on the couch, my parents in the background, laughing, eating takeout. Same kitchen table. Same house. Like I never existed. I watched the story and whispered, "There's your ungrateful burden. Gone." And no one even blinked. But that's how it always was. I was only visible when something needed fixing. When the car broke down. When the Wi-Fi died. When the loan payment bounced. Now that I was gone and quiet, they could pretend I never mattered. And I let them. Because sometimes the only thing louder than screaming is absence. Meanwhile, I finally started living. I took walks in the middle of the day. Signed 2 new clients. Took myself out to dinner on a Thursday and didn't have to justify it to anyone. Jules taught me how to make cocktails. We laughed, really laughed, like I hadn't since I was 17. I could breathe. I wasn't carrying a house full of resentment and roof leaks on my back anymore. And I knew the day was coming. The day the first unpaid mortgage notice would land in their mailbox. The day they'd check their banking app and see a blank space where my deposit used to be. The day the silence would finally speak. But I didn't reach out. Didn't warn them. Didn't explain. Didn't remind them of what I used to pay. Because if they needed a reminder, they never really valued me to begin with. I let the clock tick. 30 days. 60. 90. And still nothing. Until one morning, as I was stirring sugar into my coffee, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in 3 months. Dad. One message. One question. Why didn't you pay the mortgage? I looked at it for a long moment, took a sip of my coffee, then typed back slowly. I thought I wasn't welcome. I hit send. And then, my phone exploded. They thought I was bluffing. That's the only explanation I have for the 3 months of silence that followed after they kicked me out. Because surely, they didn't think the mortgage just paid itself. Or maybe they did. Maybe they were so used to money magically showing up that they truly believed the world would keep spinning even after they threw out the only one turning the gears. But banks don't operate on denial. They operate on due dates. On numbers. On cold, hard facts. The first overdue notice came a month after I canceled my auto-pay. I didn't see it, obviously. But I knew when it came. Because suddenly, my inbox pinged with an email. Subject: Address discrepancy confirmation. Mortgage statement. It was from the mortgage company, verifying that I had updated my residence and removed my account from all payment responsibilities. I replied, "Yes, confirmed. I am no longer living at that address. I am not the homeowner. Please direct any further inquiries to the primary borrowers." That was all. One line. And it was like slicing the cord they'd been dangling by. The second notice came 30 days later. That's when the late fees kicked in. When the mortgage company called them directly, not me. when my dad's phone started lighting up with unfamiliar numbers that couldn't be ignored. And yet, still, no one reached out to me. No apology. No, we didn't realize. Just silence. Until that 4th month. Until the moment the final warning arrived, the bright red kind with words like pre-foreclosure and legal action stamped across it. And suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. That's when Dad texted, "Why didn't you pay the mortgage?" 7 words. That's all it took to ignite the fire they'd been sitting on for 90 days like it wasn't real. I replied, "I thought I wasn't welcome." Within 5 minutes, I had 3 missed calls, 2 long texts from Mom, 1 voicemail from my brother saying, "You should have told us you were serious." Serious? I had walked out with 1 bag and 0 money owed to anyone in that house. The only serious thing was their assumption that I'd continue to finance the very people who threw me away. That same afternoon, I logged into the mortgage account, not to pay, but to watch. Their balance was now nearly $4,000 overdue. They'd never seen that number, because I'd shielded them from it. I used to schedule payments ahead of time, paid their late fees before they even got notifications. They thought they were staying afloat when really, I was the life raft. And the second I stepped off, the ship started sinking. Mom finally called me that evening. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice trembling, half crying. "We made a mistake. Please, Tessa. This is your family. We didn't know how much you were doing. We thought you'd always be here." That last line stuck with me. We thought you'd always be here. That was the problem. They never saw me. They saw my usefulness, my wallet, my quiet loyalty, my ability to hold things together while they chipped away at my worth. Now, they were seeing the cracks, not in the house, in the story they'd been telling themselves. And for once, I wasn't patching it up for them. I don't know what exactly I expected after I sent the message. I thought I wasn't welcome. But I didn't expect this. Within minutes, my phone lit up like it had caught fire. Police Garlight 8 missed calls. Police Garlight 2 voicemails. Police Garlight 17 unread texts. All from them. The parents who told me to get out like I was a stranger. The people who turned their backs while I packed the only life I had into a duffel bag. Now I was valuable again. Now they remembered I existed. Funny how the threat of losing a house finally did what love, effort, and silent sacrifice never could. Made them care. The messages weren't even apologetic at first. They were frantic, scattered, self-centered. "Tessa, this isn't how families act. You could have just said something. We're drowning here. Please don't let us lose everything." And my favorite, "You're overreacting. We didn't really mean it when we told you to leave." Didn't mean it? They said it with teeth. With certainty. They didn't whisper it in anger. They shouted it like a verdict. But now, with a foreclosure letter staring them in the face and credit scores slipping into the basement, suddenly their words were negotiable. I listened to the first voicemail from Mom. Her voice was shaking, the kind of panic that only shows up when comfort dies. "Tessa, we're sorry. We didn't know you were paying so much. Your father is calling the bank, but we're behind. We need your help. Please. Let's fix this. As a family." Family. They loved pulling that word out when they were in trouble. But where was that word when I was working 14-hour days just to keep the lights on in their home? Where was family when they dismissed my business, my work, my voice? Where was family when they let me walk out without asking if I had a place to sleep? The second voicemail was shorter. My dad. A man who rarely spoke unless it was a command. "Tessa, we misjudged. I'll admit that. But the house is in real danger. Can you come home? Just for now." That was the one that almost made me laugh. Come home? The house they claimed I didn't belong in? The one I paid for quietly, month after month, while they looked through me like fogged glass. The same house where my worth ended the second my payments did? No. They didn't want me. They wanted the money, the roof, the rescue, the return of the invisible daughter who solved everything in silence. But that girl? She was gone, replaced by someone who finally understood her value. And this version of me wasn't going back. I typed one message. No flourish. No anger. No lecture. Just clarity. You said I didn't belong. I believed you. I hit send. Blocked the numbers. Not out of revenge, out of peace. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a boundary. And they were finally on the other side of it. I thought I'd feel guilty. That's what years of being the family fixer trains you to believe, that their pain is somehow your fault. That if they're falling, you're supposed to catch them. But when the notice of public foreclosure hit the county's website, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not joy. Just clarity. Because this was never my mess. This was the storm they brewed, when they dismissed my work, silenced my presence, and threw me out like an old receipt. And now, the roof was finally caving in. Jules texted me a screenshot. Is this your parents' house? Flushed face. It was a listing from a local foreclosure watch group, one of those community accounts that posts every pre-auction property. The caption was brutal. 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. Delinquent. Current owners 90+ days late. Auction pending. Underneath were comments. Wasn't that the Mercer's place? Didn't their daughter move out? Yikes. They always acted so put together. Their shame wasn't private anymore. It was searchable. A week later, my brother tried to DM me. You proved your point. Can you please help them now?
This isn't just about them.
It's our family home. I didn't respond, because if I was worth nothing to them when I was quiet, giving, and invisible, I'm not about to become their ATM now that everyone else can see what I carried. Another voicemail came, this time from Mom. Soft, crumbling. Your father won't speak. He just sits there. We have 30 days before we're out. We're not asking for charity. Just a second chance. That's all I ever wanted from them. A second chance to be seen.
Heard. Valued.
And they waited until their entire foundation cracked to offer me the very thing they withheld when I needed it most. They didn't want me back. They wanted their comfort back. The kind I paid for. The kind they never thanked me for. The kind they told their friends they earned themselves. That's the part no one saw. The family barbecues where they bragged about weathering the economy. The church announcements where they smiled and talked about blessings. All funded by the girl in the basement. The girl they erased. I received a formal email from the mortgage company a few days later, not as a borrower, but as a listed previous payer. We are finalizing proceedings. The property is scheduled for auction on the 3rd of next month. If you are interested in acquiring it, please contact us. That last line sat with me. Because yes, I could have bought the house. I had enough in savings. I had the credit, the income, the means. But why would I buy a house soaked in gaslighting and guilt? Why would I go back to a place that was never truly mine? I deleted the email. Then I opened a new one, a contract for a loft space downtown. One with high ceilings, clean windows, room for a real studio, and a reading nook I never had space for before. And, in that space, I'd build something new. Not from debt, not from duty, from choice. While they watched the house I once held up with my own bare hands slip through theirs. The first night in my new place, I stood barefoot in the middle of the living room with the lights off. No furniture yet. No curtains. Just moonlight across the floor and silence thick with peace. And I whispered to no one, This is mine. My name on the lease. My money on the deposit. My sweat behind every cent of it. No one co-signed. No one covered. No one guilted me into being thankful. And still, I had more freedom than I ever did under a roof my name wasn't even on. The first night, I ordered takeout and ate it sitting on the floor, chopsticks, soy sauce, and a smile that wouldn't leave my face. I slept on a mattress with no frame, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and soft playlists playing from my phone. But I never felt richer. Because I wasn't paying for someone else's comfort anymore. I was paying for peace. While my parents were scrambling to figure out where they'd go next, trying to stall foreclosure with negotiation letters and empty promises, I was building. I launched a new website, rebranded my freelance business, shared pieces of my story on a personal blog post titled, Daughter, Not a Lifeline. It wasn't a rant, just truth.
Clear and sharp.
They called me selfish when I stopped carrying them. But maybe what they meant was, we liked you better when you had no boundaries. I didn't name them.
Didn't need to.
The post took off anyway. It was shared on forums, Reddit threads, women's business pages. Hundreds of comments poured in.
Same.
I was the family's emotional janitor. My parents cut me off when I wouldn't co-sign for their second car. You're not alone. Thank you for saying this. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was just finally speaking out loud the things so many daughters like me are taught to keep quiet, that you can love your family and still need distance. That being born into a house doesn't mean you owe it your entire adulthood. That walking away isn't betrayal when staying would mean self-erasure. I started getting podcast invites. One brand asked to feature my quote on a hoodie. Another platform offered to license my blog post as part of a resilience course. But the best moment was when a customer, a woman who'd bought from my store years ago, messaged me. Your candles used to make my house feel warm. Now your words make me feel safe in my own decisions. Thank you. I cried reading that, because for so long, I thought my value came from how much I could hold, how much I could give, how much I could endure without breaking. Now I knew. My value came from the truth I refused to bury anymore. And my worth was no longer negotiable. They tried one last time. A letter, handwritten, folded into thirds. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable, my mother's. Jules found it sticking out of our shared mailbox. Tessa, this came for you. Want me to burn it? I laughed.
No.
I want to read it. One last time. I sat at the kitchen table, unfolded the page, and read the way you read something you already know won't change anything. It started off soft. We miss you. We were wrong. Then it slipped into justification. Things were stressful. We didn't realize how much pressure we put on you. Then came the ask. We've found a small rental, but the deposit is a lot. If there's any way you can... I stopped reading. Even now, after everything, it wasn't about me. It was about what I could fix.
They didn't want me.
They wanted the girl who used to patch their leaks, pay their bills, keep her head down, and her voice low. But she didn't live here anymore. I took out a sheet of paper.
Clean.
Unfolded. Unapologetic. And I wrote, Mom, Dad, you told me to leave. You made it clear I was not welcome. So I left. And in doing so, I finally saw the truth. That my presence was only appreciated when it came with a payment. That my silence was only respected when it served your comfort. That family only mattered when I was the one bleeding for it. You did not lose your home because I walked away. You lost it the moment you believed I was disposable. I did not abandon you. I simply believed you. And now that I've built peace without you, I'm choosing not to let you tear it down again. I won't be your solution.
Not now.
Not ever again. Tessa. I folded the letter, placed it back in the same envelope, and mailed it the next morning. I don't know what they did after they read it. Maybe they were angry. Maybe they cried. Maybe, finally, they understood. But I didn't need to know. Because closure doesn't mean they're satisfied. It means I am. A week later, I sat on the balcony of my new place with a cup of tea and a quiet that didn't demand anything from me. The world didn't fall apart. My business was growing. The peace in my chest was mine. Earned, protected, unbothered. Then my phone pinged. A new customer order. 2 candles, 1 tote bag, and a note card with a custom message. For my daughter. I told her to leave once. She hasn't come back. I'm going to fix that. Thank you for showing me what I did wrong. I stared at it for a long moment. Some stories don't get a happy ending, but sometimes they become warnings. And sometimes they become mirrors. That was enough for me. They said I wasn't welcome. So I built a life they'll never be invited into. I came home to silence. No tiny sneakers by the door. No glitter trail across the floor. No mommy echoing from the stairs. Just the hum of my fridge and an envelope taped to the kitchen counter. That's when I knew something was wrong. At first, I thought maybe my daughter Mia was still at my parents' place. They were supposed to watch her while I was away for a 2-day business retreat. I'd packed her bag, her sketchbook, even her favorite peanut butter crackers. They'd smiled when I dropped her off. "Don't worry," Mom had said. "She'll be fine." Now I stood alone in my kitchen, the sun setting behind me, with a letter that read like a breakup note. "Sorry, sweetie. We just couldn't take care of her."
That was the first line.
The rest rambled. A few scribbled sentences trying to explain away the unthinkable. How Mia had been a handful, how their trip was already planned, how they just didn't know what else to do. They had dropped my 9-year-old daughter at Child Protective Services, like she was lost property. And then, they boarded a plane to Hawaii with my sister's 3 kids, complete with Disney backpacks, matching outfits, and pre-booked hula lessons. No emergency, no warning, no phone call, just a note. And a daughter in foster care. I didn't scream, didn't throw things,
Didn't call anyone to cry.
I drove straight to the CPS office. When I walked in, the woman at the front desk recognized the name immediately. "Are you Mia's mother?" she asked gently. I nodded. She exhaled, stood up, and led me back to a quiet, windowless room. And there she was,
Mia.
curled up on a hard plastic couch with a blanket wrapped around her, hair tangled, cheeks puffy. Her sketchbook clutched to her chest like a lifeline. She looked up when I entered. "Mom," I knelt down in front of her. "I'm here, baby." She didn't say anything else, just buried her face in my neck and started shaking, not sobbing, just trembling like a branch in a storm. The caseworker gave me space. Didn't ask questions yet.
I appreciated that.
When we finally spoke, she told me the truth. They dropped her off with a backpack, a note, and 0 documentation. Said they couldn't manage her anymore. The system had no choice but to take her in until we found a contact. "We've been trying to reach you for hours." I checked my phone. 1 missed call. No voicemail. No messages from my parents. Just silence. The kind you never forget. I signed the forms. Took my daughter home. Got her in the bath. Fed her pancakes at midnight. Then I sat down with the note again. And I made a list. Not a revenge plan. Not an emotional rant. A timeline. A paper trail. A set of names, dates, departures, flight numbers, and jurisdictional authorities. Because I wasn't going to scream. I was going to document. My name is Jordan. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because they thought they left my daughter behind with nothing. But what they really left behind was a mother with everything to prove. And tomorrow morning, someone was going to knock on their door. And this time, they wouldn't be able to walk away. My parents always had 2 sets of rules. One for my sister, Samantha, and one for me. Samantha was the golden daughter, cheer captain, married by 22. 3 kids, Pinterest lunches, matching family pajamas every Christmas. I was the late bloomer. The rebellious one. The career girl who made her own life too complicated. That's what they called it when I had Mia at 25 and raised her without a husband. To them, she was a reminder of my mistake.
To me,
she was my miracle. But from the moment Mia was born, she was treated like a backup grandchild. Every year, my parents sent Samantha's kids elaborate gifts, tablets, bikes, full costume sets. Mia got pajamas. Sometimes not even the right size. One Christmas, they mailed matching sweaters for all the cousins. Mia's box was empty. Mom claimed it was a shipping error. I said nothing, because I was used to the errors always falling on our side of the family tree. But what really broke me was watching Mia notice. She never asked for more, never complained. She just watched from the corner while her cousins got praised for basic manners, while she got labeled difficult if she didn't smile on command. My father once said, "She's a little quiet, isn't she? Probably needs more structure." I said, "She's thoughtful, not loud. That's not a flaw." He rolled his eyes. Samantha could drop her kids off unannounced, 2 weekends in a row, and my parents would rearrange their lives to babysit. I'd call once, with 3 days' notice. "Sorry, sweetie, we're so booked. Maybe next time." Mia never got sleepovers at Grandma's. She got conditions. And the irony? Mia adored them. She made cards, painted them watercolor bookmarks, brought them her favorite shells from the park.
She tried.
And still, she wasn't enough. I told myself they'd warm up, that they were just old-fashioned, that maybe when Mia got older, they'd see her. But they didn't. Instead, they planned a once-in-a-lifetime family trip to Hawaii and asked if I could keep Samantha's kids for a few days before the flight. I said no. I had work.
So, did Samantha?
We agreed. Mom and Dad would take Mia and her cousins together for one night before the trip, then we'd figure it out. What I didn't know was, they'd never planned to take Mia at all. The cousins' bags were packed with bathing suits, goggles, travel tablets. Mia's backpack had crackers and one stuffed rabbit. And a note. Not even sealed in an envelope. Just scribbled on printer paper. Sorry, sweetie. We just couldn't take care of her. They didn't forget her. They excluded her. Deliberately. Left her in a government office while boarding a flight with 3 kids in matching Aloha Squad shirts. I kept rereading that line in the note. We just couldn't take care of her. But they never had to, because she took care of herself more than they ever took care of her.
And now?
She had a mother who wasn't interested in vengeance. Just accountability. Because you don't abandon a 9-year-old like a spare toothbrush and fly off into a sunset. Not when she has a mother like me. It was handwritten. On plain white paper. No envelope. No dignity. Just folded once and left on my counter like a crumpled receipt. The handwriting was unmistakable. My mother's perfect loops and passive-aggressive curls. Sorry, sweetie. We just couldn't take care of her.
That was the first line.
The rest? Some twisted mix of excuse, denial, and fake affection that read more like a cover letter than a cry for help. Mia is a lovely girl, but we simply weren't equipped for her level of sensitivity. She had a small meltdown over pancakes and wouldn't stop crying for you. With the upcoming trip and all the planning involved, we just couldn't give her what she needed. We thought it would be best for her to be somewhere safe and structured. And you know how anxious she can get. Safe and structured. They were talking about foster care. They used clinical language to dress up abandonment. They ended the note with, "Hope you understand. We'll be back in 10 days. No signature. Not even a love, Mom and Dad." Just an afterthought, like they were confirming a package drop-off.
I sat there for a long time, reading it again and again.
And the thing is, I almost did understand. Because this wasn't new. This wasn't the first time they made Mia feel like a backup plan. This was just the loudest version of what they'd been doing quietly for 9 years. But now I had proof. So I got to work. I scanned the note, took high-res photos, documented the time I found it, recorded a voice memo of my initial reaction, calm, detailed, time-stamped. Then I called Sasha, my closest friend and a legal assistant for a family law attorney. They left her in state custody, Sasha, with a note. While they went to F******ing Maui. Her voice dropped. Did you document everything? Every line. She gave me the plan. File a formal CPS report, not to attack them, but to solidify the record. Open a case for endangerment abandonment, especially given Mia's age and medical history. She had mild asthma, which they conveniently forgot to list. Notify the court of upcoming travel so that jurisdiction fell under my local system, not theirs. And then, the final move. File a freeze on any shared financial accounts they used to pay for that trip. You have precedent. They're in Hawaii, Sasha. What's that going to do?
She paused.
You ever seen a resort hold someone's bags over unpaid incidentals? I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because they needed consequences. Not screaming, not guilt, just a mirror. And I was about to hold it right to their sunburned faces. Before I filed, I asked Mia something. Sweetheart, what did Grandma and Grandpa say when they dropped you off? She shrugged. Her voice was soft. Grandma said not to cry. That I'd be better off with people who know what to do with kids like me. My heart cracked. Do you think that's true? She looked up at me.
No.
I think they just didn't want me. I knelt down, held her face in both hands. Well, I do. And they're about to find out what that costs. I didn't slam doors. I didn't post about it. I didn't call to curse them out. I just printed the paperwork and filed it. Report hashtag CPS 7281. A. Neglect of minor by guardians. Filed. 9:47 a.m. Allegation: abandonment of 9-year-old minor without formal custody transfer, documentation, or notification to legal parent. Attached. The note. Time-stamped photos. My custody papers. Flight booking records. They booked the trip 4 months prior, meaning they had time to plan who would go and who wouldn't. And then I sent a copy to Sasha's office. By noon, the report was flagged for urgent review.
Why?
Because they didn't just leave Mia with a neighbor or call CPS in a panic. They physically walked her into a government office, left her, and flew away. And that isn't just negligence. It's calculated endangerment. They treated her like an inconvenience. A last-minute cancellation. A non-refundable burden they decided to toss so they could sip my ties with Samantha's picture-perfect kids. Sasha got back to me with news. We're escalating it. The state can open a temporary case against them. If it moves fast enough, they'll be served in Hawaii. I blinked. They'll get hit there?
Hard.
Travel violations tied to child neglect don't sit well with law enforcement, especially when the abandoned child is already in the system. The next morning, I filed one more request. A hold on any joint accounts my parents shared with Samantha. Not to steal. To freeze. Because she was complicit. She had to be. There's no way she didn't know Mia wasn't going. No way she didn't question why only her kids got the all-expenses-paid treatment. And yet, she said nothing. So I said everything. A notice was delivered to Samantha's bank, alerting them to pending legal action involving her children's travel, since the funds used came from an account under joint family responsibility. She texted me that night. Samantha, what the hell is this? Are you trying to ruin Mom and Dad's trip? I replied with a single photo. The note. 5 minutes later, she called. I didn't pick up. Because this wasn't about phone calls. It was about paper trails. And the trail now pointed to a hotel suite in Maui, where 2 people were sipping cocktails, completely unaware that a caseworker in a button shirt and 2 officers in plain clothes were already on their way. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not yet. I just felt readiness. Because when you're a mother and they hurt your child, you don't scream. You report. You document. You let the system they believed would protect them hold up a mirror. That night, I tucked Mia into bed. She held my hand and whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" I kissed her forehead.
No.
You did everything right. They're the ones who forgot how to love. Then I sat at my desk watching the clock. Because somewhere across the ocean, the sun was rising. And so was their reckoning. They thought paradise would protect them. Hawaii. 5-star suite. Ocean view balcony. 3 grandkids eating rainbow shave ice, while Samantha posted boomerangs of beach yoga and pineapple brunch. No responsibilities. No phone calls. No guilt. Just vacation. Until 7:42 a.m. Room 604.
Bang. Bang. Bang.
3 sharp knocks on polished wood. Not a polite knock. Not a housekeeping tap. A government knock. The kind that tells you, you're not in charge anymore. Inside the room, my mother was pouring coffee. My father was scrolling through weather apps, planning the next excursion. They hadn't even called to check on Mia. Didn't send a single text. The door opened. 2 plainclothes officers and 1 representative from Hawaii's Child Welfare Services stood in the hallway, badges out, formal, firm. Mr. and Mrs. Callahan? Yes, my father said, brows furrowing. You've been named in an active child neglect report involving the abandonment of your granddaughter, Mia Callahan. Silence. My mother blinked like someone had just spoken to her in another language. I think there's been a mistake. We have documentation. A signed note left in your home. Flight records. Witness statements. We're going to need you to come with us for questioning. She sputtered. We're on vacation. That's noted in the report. But she's fine now, right? Jordan picked her up? This is all just dramatic. A child was placed into state custody under your supervision. You left the country without proper care arrangements. That's not dramatic, ma'am. That's criminally actionable. My father tried to speak. The officers were already inside, securing the space, asking where the other minors were, the ones you chose to bring. The hotel manager appeared 10 minutes later, red-faced, apologizing to guests in the hallway as voices rose. A crowd had gathered. Samantha, in gym clothes and wet hair, came running from the breakfast buffet when she heard. "What's going on?" She saw the officers. "This is ridiculous. She's her granddaughter." "Not your daughter," the caseworker corrected. "You weren't listed on any custodial paperwork. And you're the one who traveled with your own children under false pretense." Samantha's jaw dropped. False? My parents paid for this trip, with funds that are currently under review due to joint custody disputes and pending financial negligence. That hit her like a slap. Now the manager looked concerned. "Are these guests under some sort of criminal investigation?" "Pending, yes." Within 20 minutes, my parents were escorted from the suite. Not handcuffed, not arrested, just exposed. Samantha and the grandkids were told to remain in the hotel until clearance was given. The trip? Over. My mother tried to call me. I let it ring, then blocked the number. Because I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for consequences. And now they had begun. By the time they landed back on the mainland, they were slapped with an emergency CPS court date, a social worker visit scheduled to inspect their home, a community memo from their local church, removing them from childcare volunteer lists, and perhaps worst of all, they had to explain why one grandchild was missing from the photos, why only 3 children came back with leis and luggage, why one little girl came back with silence, trauma, and a mother ready to burn it all down. By the time they landed back home, the walls were already closing in. No welcome committee. No excited grandkids jumping into their arms. Just silence and consequences. Their house had already been visited by a CPS field agent. Neighbors watched. Not from curiosity, from recognition. Because word had gotten out. Not from me. I never posted a thing. But small towns don't need posts. They just need one whisper. "Did you hear what the Callahans did to their granddaughter?" Left her with foster care. On purpose. While they were sipping coconuts on a beach. My parents' phone calls tripled. From the community center. From the church elder board. From Samantha. "You need to fix this," she texted them. But they couldn't. Because I didn't just file reports. I filed a motion. Emergency petition for legal guardianship restructuring. Effective immediately. No unsupervised visits. No temporary custody over minors without parental review. And no legal say over Mia. Ever again. I filed a cease and desist order to prevent them from using Mia's name in any public statement. They couldn't play the misunderstood grandparent card, not with state evidence sitting in 3 manila folders on a judge's desk. Then came the financial blow. Sasha pushed forward on the motion to freeze their travel-related funds. Since they'd booked the family vacation with funds partially tied to shared accounts, meant originally for college savings, mine, years ago, we had grounds to investigate misuse. The court agreed. Their accounts were audited. Half the hotel bill, paid through a savings account they promised would be locked away for Mia someday. My father tried to deny it, until they pulled the bank records. That hit Samantha the hardest. She had plans, a new kitchen renovation, a private school fund, a leased SUV. Now, she had a lawyer. Not against me, against them. "You dragged my kids into this," she screamed over voicemail. "You knew," I texted back. "And you said nothing." She never replied. At work, people stopped asking my parents about the grandkids. At church, they stopped getting invited to speak. Their picture-perfect legacy? Cracked. And I didn't gloat. I just rebuilt. I took time off work to stay home with Mia. We painted her room, bought glow-in-the-dark stars, made forts from old blankets. We started family movie nights, just us. Mia was quiet at first. Jumpy. Distrustful. But one night, after brushing her teeth, she looked at me and said, "Grandma used to say I was too much. Am I?" I knelt down, looked her in the eye. "You're not too much. You were just too bright for people who forgot how to see light. She smiled, small but real. And for the first time since that day, I felt peace. Not victory. Not revenge.
Just peace.
Because I hadn't taken anything from them that wasn't already rotting. I just stopped pretending the rot wasn't there.
And now?
They'd never have control again. It started with a whisper. Can I paint my walls? Mia stood in the hallway, holding 3 swatches, lavender, seafoam green, and soft gold. Her fingers were still stained with marker from earlier. I smiled. You can paint them all if you want.
She grinned.
That was the first time I'd seen her smile without checking the room to make sure it was safe. We picked seafoam. She wanted stars on the ceiling, so we made them. Glow-in-the-dark ones. We spelled her name in constellations above her bed. She started sleeping through the night again. Stopped checking the door lock twice. Stopped waking up afraid someone else would leave her. Because now she understood. No one was leaving. And if someone tried to, she had a mother who would burn the whole system down first. We started doing little rituals. Morning smoothies. Afternoon walks. Art hour every Sunday, even if we just colored the same page for 30 minutes. One night, she pulled out her sketchbook, the one she clutched at the CPS office. She turned it to a page I hadn't seen before. It was a drawing. A tiny girl with wild hair, sitting on a suitcase under a sign that said, "Lost and Found." But next to her, a taller figure held her hand. The figure wore a shirt with a heart on it and a big, uneven smile.
Me.
Underneath, Mia had written, "Found." I didn't cry. I just held her and whispered, "You're not a burden, baby. You're a miracle. A gift they didn't deserve. But I do. And I will never stop showing you that." Her voice was small. Even if I mess up? Even then. Especially then. Because that's the thing about real love. It's not loud. It's not performative. And it doesn't abandon you at an office with a note taped to your backpack. Love shows up. Even when it's hard. Even when you're exhausted. That week, I got a call from a local nonprofit. They'd heard about what happened, not from me, but through quiet whispers. A staff member from CPS had referred me to a small resilience project for single parents. They asked if I'd speak on a panel. Not about the scandal. Not about the report. About what comes after. About rebuilding trust. Protecting kids. Being believed. I said yes. Not because I wanted the attention, but because I wanted every other mother who'd been made to feel too much to know. You're not weak for staying quiet. You're not dramatic for fighting without shouting. And you're not wrong for walking away from people who share your blood, but not your soul. That night, after the call, Mia asked, "Mommy, are we normal now?" I shook my head, grinning.
No.
We're not normal. We're better. We're ours. She laughed. And in that moment, giggling in seafoam walls under plastic stars, I knew. They may have broken everything once, but they didn't win. We did. They showed up 2 weeks later. I was on my porch watering the little flower bed Mia and I had planted together. Wildflowers and baby lavender, the kind of things that grow quietly and bloom without permission. Their car pulled up slow, cautious. My mother got out first. She looked older, thinner. My father followed behind, adjusting his shirt collar like it would hide the shame on his face. I didn't move. I didn't wave. I just turned the water off and waited. "Jordan," my mom started, voice cracking. "We just wanted to talk." I stayed quiet. "We made a mistake. A terrible mistake." "We've lost everything," my father added, glancing at the street like someone might be watching. They weren't here to apologize. They were here to fix their image. To find a way to rewrite what had happened. To soften the truth so it could fit back into their polished little world. "We didn't know how much this would hurt you," she continued. "We thought she was safe. We thought you'd be back soon." I tilted my head. "You thought wrong." They nodded quickly, desperate. "We'll do anything," my father said. "We miss Mia." And there it was. We miss Mia. Not we're sorry for what we did. Not we understand why we'll never see her again. Just longing. Just regret dressed up as entitlement. "She's doing well," I said simply. "She doesn't ask about you anymore." My mother swallowed hard. Can we write to her?
No.
Maybe just a visit? A letter?
No.
My voice was steady. Final. I stepped down from the porch, just close enough so they could mistake the expression on my face. You didn't just forget her birthday. You didn't just miss a recital or say the wrong thing. You abandoned her. You put her in state custody like she was a stray. Then you flew across an ocean and posted smiling pictures with other kids. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. My mom was crying now. My dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I took a breath. Then I said the line I had written in my head 100 times. You treated her like luggage. Now you'll carry the weight of losing us for the rest of your lives. Silence. Not defensive. Not angry. Just broken. They turned to leave without a word. No fight. No screams. Because sometimes the loudest thing in the world is the sound of a door you'll never be allowed through again. I watched them go, then turned back toward the house. Inside, Mia was drawing on the floor, another one of her quiet masterpieces. Stars, flowers, little cartoon animals all hugging each other in crayon. She looked up. Who was it? I smiled. Just someone from the past. She nodded. I made you something. She held up a paper crown, crooked, covered in glitter. It's for being the best mom ever. I knelt, letting her place it on my head. It felt better than any courtroom victory, better than any public reckoning. Because this was the real reward. They thought they could leave a child behind and come home to peace. But what they came home to was a mother who had already rewritten the rules.